Hey, and welcome back to another Nordic CEO story brought to you by the She community. I'm your host, Matt C. Smith, and in this episode, I'm joined by a leader who's very passionate about the power of thinking Nordic first, and is going to share his incredible journey from being hacked by right-wing extremists and how he went from 1 employee to 425 in a day. So this is Thomas Høgebøl. He's the CEO and founder of the North Alliance, which is Scandinavia's first independent communication, design, and technology, not firm, but family. That's how they describe themselves. It's a family of over 800 people spread across Denmark, Sweden, Norway, with offices in the US and Poland. Thomas, good morning, mate. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Matt.
Thomas, famous question, and the title of the show is, what do you have for breakfast, mate?
Wow, I'm happy you asked this morning because it was a healthy one. I had scrambled eggs and vegetable juice. So I don't always have that, but this morning I did.
Nice one.
Because
Did
I
you
was
things
fearing
yourself?
you're going to give me that question, so that's why I had it. No, a healthy one, yeah.
Sounds good. Awesome. And any morning routines we'd love to know about? I mean, are there any sort of quirky CEO routines that no one else but the CEOs know?
Sorry, I'm a bit boring there. I don't have time for routines. I just need to get going. But now, with home office and everything, obviously I have time to prepare a nice cup of coffee, and and to get myself online and to have tons of video conferences and video meetings with various offices and colleagues and clients. So nothing in particular. Sorry.
Okay. No worries. And that's exactly it. You know, tons of video conferences and now even podcasts over video, right? That's the new way to do things. It's working well for us.
Nice.
But thank you for joining us, mate. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to our wonderful audience who are listening to this right now. Now, Thomas, up to about 7 years ago, you had a pretty traditional corporate career, right? You know, you'd been a marketing director for TV2 in the 90s. You moved then to McCann, the world's leading ad agency network. You could have stayed on that route, but you probably would have retired by now as well. But at some time in your mid-40s, between 2012 and 2014, you decided to raise millions of dollars from private equity companies and buy 8 agencies across the Nordics. What the hell made you do that?
Well, a combination of a few things, I guess. First of all, I was a bit bored. I had spent 7 years in television, 13 years with an international network. Fantastic companies, both of them. But I felt like I had been extremely loyal, so to speak, and I felt that I had to do something else. I was eating the same course all over and over again, meaning looking at kind of the same challenges again and again. So I wanted to do something new, and a couple of people whispered in my ear that the oil price was diluting, and the investments would go in a different direction than oil and oil service in Norway. So maybe it was time for private equity to invest in consulting business or in creative business, which has not been a topic at all for many years. So I just kind of dived into it naively, but with great ambitions, and so that's me and the way I was thinking. On the other side, I saw that the market was consolidating. We had all kinds of agencies looking for the same client, and the client was typically have something between 7 and 10 different agencies. You would have a digital agency, a design agency, an advertising agency, an event agency, and media agency, all kinds of agencies. And you don't need that anymore. I saw that in 2012 when I resigned from McCann, and I wanted to kind of create a network, or we call it a family, because network is kind of. It looks very. It sounds wrong. So we wanted to create it a bit closer and to have it as a family. And I wanted to gather some of the best players across the Nordics and deliver a tailor-made offering to the modern CMO or CTO, and heavily backed by technology, in which was not the case in McCann when I was there, at least. So
because you've been covering at McCann, you've been covering obviously Northern Europe and the Nordics for, as you said, 13 years, right? And then actually leading that department for the world's largest agency network. Now, brand Scandi, right? You know, I know you're a believer in the brand Scandi, something that we've seen over the last sort of decade or so exponentially grow, right? I mean, from the early days of ABBA to today, where we have IKEA, Absolute, Acne, all these brands that are brand Scandi, and in the creative industries too, right? If you look at the US, New York, LA, London, a lot of the creative directors are Scandinavian. What is it about brand Scandi and sort of the Scandi creative mindset that is so attractive to the international market?
Well, you pointed out lots of great startups here, and we are a small region, 20 million people, but we are very tech focused, and so the Nordics is kind of a testing ground for many of the mobile operators and for some of the big platforms as we see today. So that's one part, and the other thing is that advertisers, they still have, and they definitely used to have very limited budgets. So we have to think creatively and kind of the big advertisers could show their advertising again and again and again, while the Norwegian advertisers or Scandinavian advertisers usually didn't have those budgets, and that's why they invested heavily into creativity in order to be seen by just showing. Or communicating once or twice, and then they end up being recognized. So we, as a market, lots of great advertising agencies were able to convince the advertisers, and they saw it themselves, that they really had to invest in creativity. And then obviously the US agencies and the networks, they see what kind of work that come out of the region, and then they tend to cherry pick the talent. That's also a reason for.
Was there a brain drain? Was there a brain
for at
drain
least the time
mentioned?
there was. The creative directors for many of the international holdcos, they were Scandinavian. So you're right, and that's also one of the reasons why I launched NOAH, to ensure that we didn't continue on that brain drain, losing the best talent to agencies and networks abroad, but keeping them here. So we just wanted to both hire them, to keep them, and also with some of the great agencies to have a platform in which they could sell or merge their company into NOAH and keep the talent here, and to serve global brands out of the region rather than going out where the global brands are. So we work with lots of global brands from Scandinavia. Google, they travel to Sweden and meet us here, or now via video conference, which makes the world certainly smaller, and you don't need an agency in your home market anymore, because you sit like you and I do now on a video conference, and you deal with it that way. So yeah, there was a brain drain. It still is to a certain extent, and I guess it's also a good thing, as long as it doesn't, as long as you don't lose all the talent, and we don't. So we have lots of great talent here, and some of them also stay in other agencies, as of course.
Because what's interesting about your journey specifically is that you obviously went through almost 20 years of a corporate career, right? Working with lots of big brands for big companies, from TV2 and also McCann, and that obviously conditioning you in sort of a corporate scale mindset. Then you hit that period. What and why did you decide to, instead of just starting your own agency and trying to do it all yourself, for example, like you said, you saw that there was just saturation in the market, right? There was agencies for everything, and every company was using 8 agencies. Yeah. Surely you couldn't have just created one agency for yourself and then start to build that organically, or raise some money to do it. Yeah. Why did you choose to instead acquire 8 initial agencies of different industries and put them together?
Good question. I have a huge respect for people that start from rock bottom, 1 or 2 people, and then adding 2 more, and 8, 10, 20, and 50 people. But that's not me. I've been exploited by working with lots of talented people around myself. So when I went through this, I felt that it came more natural to me to kind of use what I had in McCann, because there are lots of fantastic things with McCann, the network and the collaboration across the various disciplines and markets as well. So so that's number one. And the second is it hadn't been done before, and I felt like kind of pioneering by raising money from private equity, if it at all was possible, would be a great thing.
How did you convince them? So I can just imagine this, Thomas, 7-8 years ago, just left McCann, you had a cushy gig, you could have retired in the next 10 years, things were going great for you, you'd hit the pinnacle of your career, your father would have been proud, he was an ad man too, right?
Yeah.
He was a media guy in the
true,
same industry.
True.
And then you say, I'm going to quit everything and I'm going to call 8 of my buddy agencies and say, hey, guess what?
Yeah.
I know you are independent and you probably love that you deal with your clients and customers, because, the creative industries are it's full of egos. It's full of brilliant creative minds, right? How do you convince them? And how did that phone call go when you called 8 of them? And I'm sure you called more than 8 and said, hey, I want to buy you. I'm going to put us all into the same group. But I'm going to let you run independently. How did that phone call go?
Yeah, it was, I took some of the phone calls myself, but I also had a recruiting company in each market reaching out to the agencies that had lined up and calling on my behalf to see if they were interested in creating a new family of fantastic creative agencies. So it was not about actually buying them, but asking them if they wanted to be part of creating something that hasn't been created before. And most of them actually said yes. Yeah, I would love to have that meeting. And then it was more important because I knew that I was, meeting fantastic, talented, future-proof companies and agencies, and then it was more about what kind of people were sitting across the table. Were they collaborators? Would they be part of something that were bigger than themselves? Would they pitch in? And were they willing to play ball? Or were they on the contrary, everything was, to your point about egos, everything was going to be centralized around me. So I would love to be part of it, but I'm going to play the key role. Some of them were thinking that way, and then I was not interested. So, and then it was a lot about engagement, I guess, and that's from leadership in general to me, to show that you have passion about the idea you have and the ambition. And to just say that, what is it to risk? I'm taking a huge risk. I resigned myself from a huge job, and this is, really, really, really important for me to pull through and to make it happen. You guys can, you guys can just actually, for the time being, just sit on the bench and take it easy, and I will get back to you and to see if I'm able to raise the money. So I kept them kind of lukewarm, and then spent a lot of time in raising the money, in which we probably will touch on later. And then it took about a year, 15 months, and then we knew each other very well before we went live. So it was obviously there is a convincing game there, but it's not rocket science. It's about passion and obviously I had some experience being a European leader for 13 years in this industry. So I didn't start at rock bottom, so to speak.
How important is that to show skin in the game, right? Because you spent 15 months convincing these organizations that were independent, operating probably very happily in their own markets and successfully, right? You come along, give them a call. Now, obviously, there's something to be said about spending 15 months. Was it 15 months of no's until finally you got a yes? Or how did that engagement work over those 15 months?
It was 15 months of no's and yes, I would say. It was back and forth, and to make it short, we had a financial sponsor for about a year, and that sponsor decided to pull out pretty much 2 minutes before 12 o'clock, and then we had to start from scratch again. And then I asked these 8 agencies, this idea is too good to kind of just shut it down, isn't it? What's your thinking around this? This was in June 2013. the 5th of June. I remember that date very well.
The 5th of June, 2013.
Yeah, that was
you've been
that was a tough day.
Building up.
Yeah, that was a tough day.
So you've been building up for 15 months.
Yeah, that was a year. I resigned in May 2012, and this was a year later, and we were supposed to go live just prior to summer 2013. The financial sponsor, for various internal reasons on their side, decided to pull out, and it ended up later, we would say, being a blessing in disguise, because they have structured the deals in the wrong way, and they saw that too late, I guess. So we ended up having actually what I did was telling these guys, it's a tough message, because I was going to pay for the companies just a few days later, and I said, I need a couple of months to raise money again, so why don't you guys take a summer holiday, and we'll meet late August and see where we are then, and fortunately succeeded in doing that, and then we spent the autumn.
So to put it this way, you spent 15 months of no's convincing independent agencies around the world, or in the Nordics specifically, to join you in this new group, this new family. And on 2 hours or 2 minutes or 10 minutes before you were meant to be actually sort of committing to pay these people, the sponsor pulled out. The person who was basically giving you the money to buy these companies, the private equity firm, pulled the rug from underneath you. How did you call them then and say, okay, so the last 15 months of yes, please join us has all fallen through? What did you do? How did that impact you?
Well, I did get that phone call when I was in Sweden. I was actually on my way flying back to Oslo, and that was a tough evening, but I called them in the evening, and I said I will fly back the day after, and we will gather. So then I had the Danes and Norwegian fly in, and we had a meeting discussing. And then, as I previously mentioned, they had a perfect opportunity to pull out. They said, a great initiative, Thomas, but this. We're pulling out now because it's taking too much time. But they all decided to give it a second shot, and I'm extremely thankful for that. So I guess it's like many startups. It's ups and downs, and you have tens of reasons and tens of people, if not more, telling you that this will not succeed. This is not possible. It's not possible to raise the money. You're making it too complicated with too many capabilities, too many markets. Take one step at a time. But I wanted to really launch a company of size and do something that hadn't been done before, and that kept me motivated, so to speak. And it's and then to see that company come live and launch it in January 23rd, 2014, then you are extremely motivated, because then the hard work part 2 starts, and I think Noah would not succeeded in the way it has done if it wasn't for that tough start.
Did you ever have any self-doubt? I mean, we all face difficult decisions. I know you watching and listening this probably face difficult decisions all the time, right?
Yeah.
And I think how we respond to these kind of things very much shapes us. But did you not have self-doubt? I mean, you got to a point in your career which many would, revel in and just enjoy and ride the wave and become the CEO. You decided to leave all of that, and then everything for 15 months was exciting, building up. You've been interviewed by BBC in front of 80 million people, and then just before, the night hit 12, everything falls apart. Obviously, you managed to put it together, but did you ever have self-doubt? I mean, did you ever wake up in the morning and go, what am I doing?
If I said no, I would lie. Of course, I had doubts every now and then, and I also had opportunities or temptations, so to speak, because my previous employer, McCann, they kept on calling to say, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Do you want to start up this or that? And I guess there were other players that also saw that this took some time, and I couldn't tell anyone what I was doing. And so there were some people reaching out, and then looking on one side that this was challenging, and I didn't have any salary at all. And being a father of 3, that doesn't make it easier when you're not paid at all. And then having lots of opportunities on the side, other side, where great jobs and this is a safe environment, so to speak. But this is what I wanted to do. So self-doubt, yes, every now and then, but it was easier to convince myself that you should just keep on carry on. And with 8 agencies behind me, I felt like I had a huge obligation to pull it through. So yeah.
But maybe that's a good place to start. So, you kick things off in January 2014, and you have, 425 people across 8 agencies in different locations, some of which knew each other, some of which, for the most part, didn't, right? What's the first step? Do you have a company after work? Or, what were your first steps to actually get 425 people to become friends and work together?
We had a huge party outside Stockholm where we gathered everyone. And
so you did have a party. So
yes.
A party is the answer.
Yeah, the party is very often the answer. So yeah, we kicked it off by having a fantastic party outside Stockholm. So that was a fun night.
But Thomas, so you were very much pioneering in the industry. The reason for that is agencies and the model for agencies, and everyone listening, if you're working in an agency, maybe you'll know this, but it's interesting to know otherwise, that agencies typically have a 10 to 20 year lifespan, right? Because people like you, Thomas, will leave a large marketing agency or company and set one up on their own, bring their buddies and creative minds. And creative agencies are only as good as the people within them, right? They're only as good as the talent that they keep.
Yeah.
And you've done something by pulling together different agencies, and instead of having a 10 to 20 year lifetime, you bring in these agencies into a larger family, if you want to call it that, which is a beautiful way to describe it. And you lean on each other, you share resources and cross-pollinate. But how did you bring everyone under the same P&L? Or did you, the profit and loss account, or did you let them operate independently and then they would just give you a call when they needed help and let you know how much money they'd made that month?
Very good question. A combination of a few things. First of all, the 8 agencies that we brought into the group initially were not competitors, so they were fulfilling each other in order to have a complete offering to the modern CMO and CTO. Secondly, kept them kind of separate, or meaning separate P&Ls. To your question, we kept it separate for until pretty much 2018. That is. And also had different addresses, and I wanted the initiative to come from internally, that they wanted to move into the same building rather than me pushing that agenda. But so we did. In 2018, we moved all entities into the same building in all markets, and also then promoted a country manager in each market, because I had all MDs reporting into me until 2018. So that made my everyday a bit easier, so to speak, when we did that. But we didn't. I know that I heard Martin Sorrell, which used to run WPP and now runs S4 Capital very successfully. He said one thing, and one mistake that he had done previously is actually merging companies too quick, doing it too hard and too quick. And I have very respect for that. So it very often becomes 1 + 1 = 1.5, sometimes 2, but very seldom 3. So I wanted to keep them separately, and we still do. But we have one P&L on a monthly basis in which we report to my board. So looking at both, I guess, the country P&L, but also the separate P&Ls. And then, in addition to the country managers, promoting people that are new biz directors, and also creating, now we are a client director group consisting of close to 100 client directors that meet on a regular basis, and we have all kinds of digital assets that help us collaborate. So now we have invested a lot of time and money into the platform, so to speak, to increase cross-fertilization and collaboration.
And that's what it is. It's a platform, right? And you're the head of that platform. What is the number one leadership quality you believe in the most?
Oh, that's a tough question. Well, to me, it is passion. I think you cannot be a convincing leader, you cannot be a good leader unless you have passion for what you do. If it's just a job, then people will see that. It doesn't seem like it matters to you. It matters a lot to me, and I think that's the reason why I succeeded in launching NOAH at all, because I have passion for what I did then and what I do now, and that. And that, whether you're a football coach or whether you're a CEO or in any industry, you need to have passion. So there are lots of things that are important for a manager or for a CEO, but passion is definitely at least one of the most important ones for me.
Do you have any leadership crushes? Any sort of leaders that you look up to throughout the history of your career?
Well, in being part of the industry, or my industry, I definitely have to look up to what Sir Martin Sorrell is doing. The guy is 74 years old, and he has renewed the agency landscape by launching S4 Capital, which consists of Media Monks and Mighty Hive, and that's definitely an inspiration to me and to many of my colleagues. So he's at least one of them. If I'm as vital and as ambitious when I'm 74, well, then I'm impressed with myself.
Well, if you have the passion that you have today, I'm sure you'll get there. And yeah, just for everyone listening, Sir Martin Sorrell, he's the British, you probably already know already, he's British, right?
He's British,
yeah,
very much so.
Yeah,
so
British.
Sir Martin
Very
Sorrell.
much so, yeah. Sir Martin Sorrell, exactly. British media mogul, basically, an advertising mogul who built WPP, the enormous, similar to McCann type, agency network, right, over the years. But your passion's still going very strong.
Yeah, he built it from scratch to 190,000 employees, and then he resigned after many, many years. And now he's building a new era, new age network again at the age of 74. So that's impressive.
So I wonder what you'll be doing in 20 years when you get to that too, right?
Who knows? Having fun, I guess.
But that's a good question. Well, I mean, that's the art to it, right? Having fun. If you believe in something and you're passionate about it, obviously you're more likely to succeed in it, right? Whatever it is, passion breeds opportunity, I believe, very strongly. But your passion is still very strong to this day, right?
Yeah.
And you're still young, Thomas. So what is next for...
Young in mind, at least.
Young in mind, at least. You look very young on this video right now. But what is next for the North Alliance? And what's next for you? And what's next for the industry? What do we have to look forward to? And what are you bullish about? Many questions in one.
Yeah, and many big questions in one. Well, what's next for NOAH? Well, I think that it's still kind of a startup. I think time runs by fast. It's now... we launched in 2014, now we're 2020. It's good to see now during the pandemic that we're coping with it very well. We're really delivering strong. So it's a huge test for any industry and for any company, and it's good to see the way we perform. But having said that, we are backed by private equity, and we're pretty much halfway into the ownership period with Norvestor, in which we have a great relationship with. And who knows? I'm focused on running a fantastic company, and the better it is, the more attractive it is to future buyers. We might end up with a new private equity player, we might end up with an industrial player, or we might end up listing it on the stock market. So there are various opportunities. We will certainly continue to make add-on acquisitions. And we're investing heavily into the company NOAH Connect, data-driven marketing, and also we have recently launched NOAH Consulting. So, kind of widening the capabilities a bit and investing more into the company. So that's for us. Where the industry is going, I think. Well, definitely the platforms are, whether we like it or not, playing a huge role now with Amazon entering the Swedish market, which will mean that they will enter the Scandinavian market with full strength. E-commerce has grown some 40+% now during COVID. So e-com is of huge importance, and that will continue to evolve and to increase, I think. And the use of first-party data and whatever available of third-party data in a smart way, and so that's also a big trend and in which will continue. So. And I also think for the industry as such, I think there will be further consolidation. There will be. I think creativity will stand out as an asset that is worth more and more and more if you're good.
And we've seen this actually with automation, right? I mean, automation. We've all heard the horror news titles about automation is going to replace our jobs. It's going to change everything. It's going to change the game, right? But the one thing that can't be automated is creativity, human creativity, because it comes. You've seen the robotic or AI created art compared to some real artists from a human mind, right? So I think creative in the creative industries are one of the strongest industries that will continue to grow.
You're right.
One comment I wanted to mention actually was, all CEOs face some turmoil and some test within their tenure as a CEO, right? You faced one that many don't, where your campaign you ran for one of your clients, SAS, the Scandinavian Airways, resulted in your team in Denmark actually getting bomb threats and death threats, right? How do you cope with that as a leader?
Yeah, that was a scary and a new experience. We had to have guards in front of the offices, and we had to take this extremely seriously. There were bomb threats. This was in particular around our Danish office. It looked like a war zone there for a day or two. Lots of police cars and ambulances and everything outside our office. So it was scary. And this was pre-COVID, so it was easier to kind of move around. The SAS were hacked by right-wing extremists, and we were threatened. My colleagues were threatened. So it was certainly about being there for the employees involved, the particular people that were involved, but also for everyone, and sharing all kinds of information that we found relevant for the people to know about. So we went around to the different agencies and offices and updated them constantly. And I also had great and very constructive conversations with SAS. I think they behaved very professional during this extreme experience for them as well. So. And I guess you can never be prepared for something like this. But I think what we can learn from it is that first on one side, life is precious. Happily, nothing happened. But on the other side, I think it still is important that brands don't get scared off by having a point of view in this world, and not that brands should not be silenced. So to have a purpose, or have which is a very used word, but having a reason for being, other than just producing your products and going to work, so to speak, I think that becomes more and more important, and especially with the people growing up now, and in order to attract talent, you should be able to convince them and tell them a story that you are something more than just a traditional company, and then that can be communicated as well, and should be communicated, even though we experience something like this as we did with SAS.
Thomas, this podcast, of course, is brought to everyone listening to this by the She community, and the She community is standing to promote and bridge that gender economic pay gap and diversity gap, which currently stands at about 256 years until we'll actually reach gender equality and diversity across the board, which is just something that I continue to recite on this podcast, because it's just unfathomable that could be a thing. So when it comes to diversity and equality, you're doing something right, Thomas, because one of your agencies, Making Waves Norway, was recognized as the highest scoring company on the She Index, powered by Ernst & Young. what are you guys doing right? How can we learn from that?
I think we put equality on the agenda, and equality is simply about giving everyone, each individual, equal opportunities to make the most out of their lives and their talents, and we're focused on that in NOAH. That's a good thing by creating a new family or a new network. Quite recently, that we can do something like that. This from the bottom, and we're not inheriting an old culture that we have to kind of adjust. So it came natural to us. By having hopefully 50-50 managers, men and women. We also have an employee investment program, which is very attractive, and we make sure that it's divided between the different geographies, between the different capabilities, and yes, between the different genders. And our goal is to have it balanced. The only challenge is that we have quite a few companies and agencies that has been owned by and started off by men. So we have kind of we started a bit off balance. So now we're about 30% women, 70% men, hoping to be closer to 50-50. So I think a combination of everything. We have, I think, some 30 plus different nationalities across NOAH in the company. And well, to put it simple, I think in order to solve great problems, you need to put people that are different from each other in the room in order to solve that problem. So from background and nationalities and certainly gender as well.
What is equality to you?
Yeah, equality is as I mentioned, it's giving every individual, every human being equal opportunities to exploit the talent, to reach to have the same ambition and have the same possibilities to reach those dreams and ambitions, and to treat them with respect and treat them in the same way.
I wish you the best success in doing that, Thomas. Final question, mate. Big question. What's your legacy?
Oh, my legacy? Yeah, that's a good way. I hope I haven't thought too much about that, but I hope I'm seen as a straight shooter, straight talker, and people that you could trust. That what I say and do, I don't think I have too many enemies, and I definitely hope I will not have that when I retire. But being a nice human being that had a lot of fun and created some fun along the way, and that was passionate about what I did and had some a bit hairy ambitions and hairy goals, and succeeded at least okay on that journey.
Being honest and you know that you don't have all the answers. This is something that you've learned as a leader. The best way to lead is with passion and having passion. That was it. The biggest notes I made all over my paper were passion, passion, passion. Being honest, you don't have all the answers. Lead with passion, find your passion, and being someone that people can trust and can hold themselves to. You know, like you said, you don't want to retire with too many enemies. You haven't got any, so you're not planning to make any now. So, Thomas, thank you so much for joining us on Breakfast with the CEO. I hope you enjoyed this. Check out Thomas and the Northern Alliance as well. The North Alliance, their family, 14 agencies around the world. Thank you so much, Thomas. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Pleasure, Matt. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us on Breakfast with the CEO. That was Thomas Høgebøl. See, I nailed the name that time. He is the CEO of NOAH, and one thing that stood out to me from that chat was finding your passion. And a way to do that is to be open to opportunity. Lead with passion and put equality on the agenda. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that episode. We'll be on for the next one next week. I hope you have a wonderful day.